The massive Azurian vessel appeared suddenly in Earth's atmosphere on a quiet Tuesday morning. It hung above Seoul like a metallic cloud, stretching nearly 2 kilometers in length. Scientists around the world scrambled to their instruments while military forces went on high alert. Dr. Kim Hannah remained unusually calm as she adjusted her telescope at the Seoul National Observatory. Recording everything, she murmured to herself, her steady hands moving across the control panel. The vessel's surface gleamed with an iridescent blue sheen that seemed to shift and pulse. 3 hours after the ship's arrival, smaller crafts descended toward major cities around the world. One landed on the expansive lawn of the United Nations headquarters. World leaders who could arrive quickly gathered in emergency session, while others joined via secure video links. The being that emerged from the shuttle walked with a strange, fluid grace. Standing over 2 meters tall with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms, the imperial emissary of the Azurian Empire surveyed the human delegation with large, unblinking eyes. "Your species has been observed for approximately 52 of your Earth years," the emissary stated without introduction. Its voice was surprisingly melodic despite the coldness of its words. "The Grand Emperor has determined that your civilization has reached sufficient development to formally join the Azurian Empire." President Choi of South Korea, serving as the temporary spokesperson, stepped forward. "We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations. Perhaps we can discuss." "There is nothing to discuss," the emissary interrupted. "The terms are standard for all worlds at your development stage. Earth will provide annual tribute of specific mineral resources and 10,000 human laborers for imperial projects. You have 30 standard days to collect the first tribute." Gasps echoed through the assembly hall. The Chinese premier stood to speak but was silenced by the emissary's raised hand. "Questions will be addressed after your compliance is confirmed. Resistance is inadvisable. Worlds that resist do not prosper." With those words, the emissary turned and returned to its shuttle, leaving behind a data crystal containing detailed tribute requirements. Dr. Kim Hannah was summoned to an emergency scientific council the next day. While politicians argued about whether to comply with the demands, she presented her findings. "The energy readings from their ship don't match what we would expect," she explained, pointing to the data on the large screen. "Based on their apparent technological level, their power output should be at least 10 times what I'm detecting." Admiral Park Ji-ho, head of South Korea's space defense program, leaned forward with interest. "What are you suggesting, Dr. Kim?" "Either their technology is far more efficient than anything we can imagine," she said carefully, "or they're not as powerful as they want us to believe." Over the next week, a global coalition formed to analyze everything about the Azurian vessel. Satellites redirected to monitor it discovered that the ship maintained a fixed position without any visible propulsion system. Unusual energy fluctuations occurred at regular intervals, suggesting some kind of maintenance cycle. Dr. Kim worked tirelessly in her lab, examining fragments of Azurian technology recovered from observation drones that had been orbiting Earth undetected for decades. Some had fallen into remote areas and been classified as meteorites until now. "Look at this circuitry," she told Admiral Park during his visit to her lab. "It's advanced, yes, but not incomprehensibly so. Some components appear to be poorly maintained or replaced with inferior parts." On day 12, several nations sent stealth aircraft to observe the Azurian vessel from closer range. 2 were destroyed by defense systems, but 1 returned with detailed scans. "They only targeted our aircraft when they approached within 1 kilometer, Captain Lee reported. Beyond that distance, they either couldn't detect them or chose not to respond." The most surprising discovery came on day 17. A communications expert detected transmissions between the main vessel and smaller ships. When decoded, they revealed something unexpected. "They're reporting to their superiors," Dr. Kim explained to the emergency council. "They're following a standard protocol they've used on thousands of worlds. They expect us to surrender without resistance because everyone else has." Admiral Park nodded thoughtfully. "So they're bullies who've never been challenged." "Precisely," Dr. Kim replied. "And there's something else. They mention resource shortages and maintenance issues." I believe the Empire has expanded too quickly and is struggling to maintain control over its territories. As Day 30 approached, Earth prepared its response. Not the tribute the Azurians demanded, but something the Empire had never encountered before, a planet that refused to bow. The world leaders met in an underground bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, away from prying Azurian sensors. Representatives from every major nation sat around a massive circular table, their faces illuminated by the soft blue glow of screens displaying Dr. Kim's findings. "We have 18 days left," President Choi said, her voice steady despite the pressure. "Our options are simple: surrender or resist." Admiral Park stood up, pointing to the holographic display of the Azurian vessel. "Their ship maintains minimal defensive systems during its rest cycle. The energy output drops by 60% every 14 hours. The Russian president leaned forward. "You suggest we attack?" "Not yet," Admiral Park replied. "First, we need to understand exactly what we're facing." The meeting continued for hours as nations that had been enemies for generations now found themselves united against a common threat. By dawn, they had formed the Earth Defense Coalition with Admiral Park as its military commander and Dr. Kim leading the scientific division. Back in her laboratory in Seoul, Dr. Kim worked with a team of the world's best scientists. They analyzed the fragments of Azurian technology, searching for weaknesses. "Look at this power coupling," she told her colleague Dr. Kong Taeho, pointing to a component under the microscope. "It's designed for a specific frequency, but shows signs of adaptation. They're using technology they didn't develop themselves." Dr. Kong adjusted his glasses. "You think they stole it? Or salvaged it?" "Either way, they don't fully understand how it works," Dr. Kim replied. Meanwhile, Admiral Park established a secret base in an abandoned mine complex. Earth's most advanced aircraft were modified based on Dr. Kim's findings, fitted with experimental weapons designed to target the weaknesses they had discovered. Captain Song Mina, one of Earth's most decorated pilots, led the first reconnaissance mission. Her stealth aircraft approached the Azurian ship during its rest cycle, equipped with advanced sensors designed by Dr. Kim. Maintaining position 1,000 meters from target, Captain Song reported through her secure communication link. No reaction from their defense systems yet. She guided her aircraft carefully around the massive ship, capturing detailed scans. Suddenly, an alarm blared in her cockpit. "Energy spike detected. They're powering up weapons." Captain Song pushed her aircraft into a steep dive, barely avoiding the energy beam that lanced out from the Azurian vessel. She engaged her experimental countermeasures, releasing a cloud of particles Dr. Kim had developed. The Azurian targeting systems lost her immediately. Captain Song escaped and returned to base with invaluable data. "Their weapons are powerful but slow to track fast-moving targets," she explained during the debriefing. "And Dr. Kim's countermeasures worked perfectly." The information gathered allowed Earth to prepare more effectively. In secret facilities around the world, scientists worked to adapt Azurian technology for human use. Engineers built shields based on the principles observed in the alien vessel. On Day 22, a small team led by Lieutenant Choi Juno infiltrated one of the smaller Azurian ships that had landed near Tokyo. Wearing stealth suits developed from Dr. Kim's research, they slipped aboard during a maintenance cycle. "Their interior security is minimal," Lieutenant Choi reported back. "They rely heavily on intimidation rather than actual defenses." The team downloaded massive amounts of data from the ship's computers before escaping undetected. When Dr. Kim analyzed the information, she made a stunning discovery. "The Azurian Empire isn't as vast as they claim," she told the coalition leaders. "They control many worlds, yes, but most are kept in line through fear rather than actual occupation." Admiral Park studied the star maps they had recovered. "They're stretched thin across too much territory. Classic imperial overextension." The data revealed more. The Empire had been using the same tactics for centuries: arrive, demand tribute, make an example of any resistance. But they had never faced a world that was both willing and prepared to fight back. Earth continued its preparations while pretending to gather the demanded tribute. Publicly, leaders spoke of complying with the Azurian demands. Privately, they prepared for resistance. Dr. Kim worked day and night to complete the planetary shield system. Using modified Azurian technology, she designed a network that could, theoretically, withstand their weapons. "We can't be certain it will work until they actually fire upon us," she admitted to Admiral Park. He nodded grimly. "Let's hope we don't have to find out." As day 30 approached, humanity faced its greatest test. For the first time in recorded history, the entire planet stood united against an external threat. The resistance was formed, prepared, and ready to show the Azurian Empire that Earth would not surrender without a fight. The countdown continued. 8 days remained until the Empire expected their tribute. The morning of day 29 arrived with tense anticipation. The Azurian vessel still hung in the sky, a constant reminder of the deadline approaching. World leaders gathered once more at the United Nations headquarters, this time not in panic but with quiet determination. Dr. Kim made final adjustments to the planetary shield system from her control center beneath Seoul. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel as she checked each node of the global network. "Shield stations report ready," her assistant announced. Dr. Kim nodded. "Keep all systems in standby mode. We can't risk the Azurians detecting the power buildup." Across the globe, military forces remained on high alert but hidden from view. Admiral Park supervised the final preparations of Earth's defense fleet from his underground command center. 200 aircraft had been modified with the technology derived from Dr. Kim's research. "All squadrons report ready," Captain Song informed him, her pilot suit already on. "Weapons systems are green across the board." The Admiral checked his watch. 3 hours until the delegation delivers our response. "Maintain radio silence until my signal." At exactly noon, the Earth's United delegation walked into the Great Hall where the Azurian emissary waited. President Choi led the group, carrying a small data crystal that contained Earth's official response. The emissary rose to its full height as they entered. "You have prepared the tribute as required," it asked, its voice echoing through the chamber. "We have prepared a response," President Choi replied calmly. She placed the crystal on the table between them. "We propose an alternative arrangement." The emissary's forearms twitched slightly. "There are no alternatives to imperial decree." "Nevertheless, we ask you to consider our proposal," President Choi continued. "Earth offers friendship, trade, and mutual cooperation instead of tribute. We believe this would benefit both our peoples far more than the arrangement you suggested." The emissary's large eyes narrowed. "You refuse the Emperor's generous terms?" "We offer better ones," President Choi said simply. The emissary took the crystal and inserted it into a device on its wrist. After scanning the contents, its blue skin darkened with what appeared to be anger. "This is unacceptable," it stated flatly. "No world has ever refused tribute. The consequences will be severe." President Choi remained calm. "We understand your position, but we believe ours is reasonable. Perhaps you should consult with your superiors before making threats." The emissary's composure broke slightly. "There will be no consultation. You have 24 hours before we commence orbital bombardment. Your cities will burn as an example to any world that would defy the Empire." Without waiting for a response, the emissary stormed from the hall and returned to its shuttle. As soon as the Azurian left Earth's atmosphere, President Choi contacted Admiral Park. "It's as we expected. They've given us 24 hours before they attack." "Then we'll be ready in 23, the Admiral replied. Dr. Kim received the news in her control center. "Bringing shield generators to full power," she ordered. "Run final diagnostic tests on all systems." Throughout the night, Earth prepared. Civilians in major cities were moved to underground shelters. Military units took up defensive positions. In orbit, satellites were repositioned to monitor the Azurian vessel. At dawn, the Azurian ship began to move. It positioned itself directly over New York City, weapons systems visibly charging. "They're targeting the United Nations first," Admiral Park noted grimly. Classic show of force. Dr. Kim watched the energy readings spike on her monitor. Shield network is ready. All stations report operational. Precisely 24 hours after the emissary's threat, the Azurian vessel fired its main weapon. A brilliant beam of energy lanced down toward Manhattan. Dr. Kim pressed the activation control. Shields up. A shimmering dome of energy formed over the city just as the beam struck. The shield absorbed the impact, glowing brightly but holding firm. Around the world, similar shields activated over major cities. The Azurian vessel fired again and again, targeting different cities. Each time, the shields held. They're increasing power, Dr. Kim reported, watching her readings. Shields at 80% capacity but holding. On her command, Earth revealed its next surprise. From hidden bases around the planet, Captain Song and her squadrons launched into the sky. 200 aircraft rose toward the Azurian vessel, using the countermeasures Dr. Kim had developed to avoid detection until they were nearly upon it. The Azurian ship frantically tried to target the approaching Earth fleet, but the vessels moved too quickly and unpredictably. Captain Song led the first attack run, her aircraft firing weapons specifically designed to target the weaknesses they had discovered. Direct hit on their primary power coupling, she reported as her squadron pulled away. The massive ship shuddered visibly. Its weapons fell silent as emergency systems engaged. The Azurian vessel retreated to a higher orbit after the first attack, its hull bearing visible damage from Captain Song's squadron. For 3 days, an uneasy silence filled the space between the alien ship and Earth. Then the sensors detected a disturbance at the edge of the solar system. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, reported Lieutenant Kong, his eyes fixed on the monitor. 7 large vessels approaching Earth. Admiral Park studied the incoming signatures. Reinforcements. They're not accepting our counteroffer. The Imperial fleet arrived with impressive speed, their massive ships dwarfing the first vessel. The communications system crackled as a new voice addressed Earth. This is High Commander Zol of the Azurian Imperial Fleet. Your resistance to Imperial authority is unprecedented and unacceptable. Surrender immediately or face complete planetary subjugation. President Choi looked to Admiral Park, who nodded grimly. We expected this, he said quietly. Proceed with Phase 2. High Commander, President Choi responded, we maintain our position. Earth will not provide tribute or submit to Imperial rule. We remain open to peaceful relations as equals. The response came in the form of weapons fire. All 7 Imperial vessels opened fire simultaneously, targeting Earth's major cities. The planetary shield system glowed brightly as it absorbed the barrage. Dr. Kim worked frantically at her controls. Shield capacity at 60% and dropping. They're using much more powerful weapons than the first ship. How long can we hold? Admiral Park asked. Maybe 2 hours at this rate, she replied. We need to reduce their numbers. Admiral Park gave the order. All squadrons launch. Operation Slingshot is now active. Earth's defense fleet rose to meet the Imperial Armada. Unlike conventional military formations, Captain Song led her pilots in seemingly chaotic patterns, approaching and retreating unpredictably. They can't track us, she reported as her fighter dived beneath an Imperial cruiser. Their targeting systems are designed for standard military tactics. The Earth vessels deployed Dr. Kim's special countermeasures, confusing the Imperial ship's sensors. When the Azurians adjusted their defense grid, the Earth fleet changed tactics again. They're following a rigid battle doctrine, observed Admiral Park. They don't adapt quickly to new situations. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Choi led a small stealth team toward the Imperial flagship. Using technology reverse-engineered from the Azurian drones, their small craft approached undetected during the chaos of battle. Docking successful, Lieutenant Choi whispered into his communicator. Beginning infiltration. His team moved through the Imperial vessel, planting small devices at key junctions. Each device contained a program designed by Dr. Kim to disrupt the ship's systems. On the planet below, Dr. Kim noticed something unexpected on her monitors. "Admiral, I'm detecting unusual communication patterns. Multiple signals are being directed toward the Imperial fleet, but they're not coming from our forces." "Source?" the Admiral asked. "Various points across the galaxy," she replied. "It appears other worlds are watching our resistance." The battle raged for another hour. Earth's shields weakened to dangerous levels, but the defense fleet had managed to disable 2 Imperial vessels. The remaining 5 continued their relentless assault. Lieutenant Choi's team reached the flagship's communication center. "We're in position," he reported. "Proceed with the broadcast," Admiral Park ordered. Lieutenant Choi connected Dr. Kim's special device to the Imperial communication system. Immediately, it began transmitting the data they had gathered about the Azurian Empire's true capabilities and weaknesses, not just to Earth, but across the Imperial network to every world under Azurian control. "Transmission successful," Lieutenant Choi confirmed. "They're trying to stop it, but the program is replicating faster than they can contain it." Across the galaxy, subjugated worlds received the truth: the Empire was stretched thin, its fearsome reputation built more on intimidation than actual strength. On the Imperial flagship, High Commander Zul received alarming reports. 3 of our outer systems are reporting uprisings. 5 more requesting immediate reinforcements. The commander's face darkened. "Impossible. Secure our communications immediately." But it was too late. The transmission had reached dozens of worlds. For the first time in centuries, the Empire faced simultaneous resistance across multiple fronts. Captain Son led a final assault against the flagship's weapon systems. Her squadron targeted the main power couplings, following the weaknesses Dr. Kim had identified. "Direct hit," she shouted as the flagship's main weapons went dark. Lieutenant Choi and his team escaped during the confusion, returning to Earth as the Imperial fleet's attack faltered. High Commander Zul faced an impossible decision. Continue the attack on Earth with his damaged fleet, or return to quell the spreading rebellions throughout the Empire. The Imperial vessels ceased fire. After a tense hour, they began retreating from Earth orbit. "They're leaving," Dr. Kim announced, looking at her monitors in disbelief. Admiral Park shook his head. "Not leaving. Regrouping. This isn't over, but we've won the first real battle." Across Earth, people emerged from shelters to see the Imperial fleet retreating into space. For the first time, a world had stood against the Azurian Empire and survived. 6 months passed since the Battle of Earth. The planet had experienced many changes, not just in technology but in unity. Former enemy nations now worked together, sharing resources and knowledge as they prepared for possible future conflicts with the Azurian Empire. Dr. Kim stood on the observation deck of the new International Space Station, watching as ships from various worlds moved through Earth's orbit. After the battle, communication signals had arrived from dozens of formerly subjugated planets. Many had successfully overthrown their Azurian governors after learning the truth about the Empire's limitations. "The delegates from Proxima Centauri have arrived," Admiral Park announced as he joined her at the viewport. He looked tired but satisfied, the weight of his responsibilities evident in the new lines on his face. "How many worlds will be represented today?" Dr. Kim asked. 27 confirmed. 5 more may arrive late due to the remaining Imperial blockades in their sectors. Dr. Kim nodded. The Azurian Empire had not fallen completely, but its hold on this sector of space had collapsed dramatically. Without the fear that had maintained their control, many worlds had quickly declared independence. The Geneva Conference Center had been expanded to accommodate the various alien physiologies of the visiting delegates. President Choi stood at the central podium, facing representatives from worlds that, until recently, humans hadn't known existed. 6 months ago, Earth stood alone against what we believed was an unstoppable force, she began. Today, we stand together as free worlds, determining our own futures. The delegates applauded, their various appendages creating an unusual rhythm. The representative from Tau Ceti, a tall being with crystalline skin, rose to speak. "For 300 years, my world provided tribute to the Empire. We believed resistance was impossible until Earth showed us otherwise. Similar stories came from each delegation. Worlds that had been exploited for generations had found courage in Earth's example. Now they sought to build something new together. The Empire's strength was never in its weapons, President Choi continued. It was in keeping us isolated, making each world believe it stood alone. That era is over. The conference continued for 7 days as the framework for a new interstellar alliance took shape. Unlike the Empire's model of central control, this alliance would be based on cooperation and mutual benefit. On the 5th day, an unexpected visitor arrived. The original Azurian emissary requested permission to address the conference. The Imperial Council wishes to negotiate terms, the emissary stated, its formerly commanding tone now subdued. The Empire proposes recognition of independent status for all worlds in this sector in exchange for limited trade agreements. The delegates murmured among themselves. This was effectively a surrender of Imperial claims to their worlds. Why should we trust any offer from the Empire? Asked the delegate from Epsilon Eridani. Because the Empire is fracturing, the emissary admitted. What happened here has spread to other sectors. The Council seeks stability where it can find it. Dr. Kim and Admiral Park exchanged glances. Their action had caused more change than they could have imagined. After much debate, the conference accepted the Empire's proposal with additional conditions. The new alliance would maintain defense forces, and any Imperial ships entering Allied space would require prior authorization. On the final day, the alliance charter was signed. Earth became a founding member alongside 26 other worlds. The document established principles of mutual defense, scientific cooperation, and fair trade. As the conference ended, Dr. Kim walked through the gardens outside the center. The setting sun cast long shadows across the landscape. Admiral Park joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Did you ever imagine this would be the result when you first noticed those anomalies in the Azurian ship? He asked, handing her a cup. She smiled. I was just trying to find a way to protect Earth. I never dreamed we would end up changing the galaxy. In orbit above them, ships from the newly formed Alliance patrolled peacefully. Several were heading to the edges of Alliance space to establish monitoring stations that would provide early warning of any Imperial incursions. The Empire will try to reclaim what they've lost eventually, Admiral Park said. Perhaps, Dr. Kim replied. But they'll face something they've never encountered before: worlds that stand together instead of kneeling separately. The first interstellar embassy opened on Earth the following week, with similar facilities being established on other Alliance worlds. Trade ships began regular routes between planets, exchanging not just goods but knowledge and culture. Dr. Kim returned to her laboratory, now expanded with new equipment and staffed by scientists from multiple worlds. The technology they were developing would help strengthen the Alliance against future threats. As she looked at the star chart on her wall, now marked with the names of Allied worlds, she thought about how quickly everything had changed. Humanity had refused to bow to intimidation, and in doing so had helped free countless other civilizations. The Azurian Empire had demanded tribute, but instead received a lesson in the power of resistance and cooperation. A new galactic order had begun, built not on fear but on mutual respect and shared strength.